the lower end market and the entry level market is really hurting from a lack of inventory, which is driving prices up.
Welcome to the Maryland Real Estate Influencers Podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the local real estate market. Join us as we chat with industry experts, uncovering tips, trends, and strategies to help you navigate Maryland's real estate landscape. Get ready to elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining into another episode of Maryland Real Estate Influencers. And today we have a great guest for you. Kirk Steffes. Did I pronounce the last name correctly?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so very much, Kirk, for coming on here and sharing with the community a little bit about you. You are one of the 5%, one of the top 5% realtors in the state of Maryland. And so first of all, just thank you for being willing to come on here and sharing with the community.
Oh, no problem. Glad I could help.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about you, how you got into the business, and how long you've been in the business?
So I've been in real estate for about 25 years. I started off building new homes in Dallas, and then we moved up here about, 17, 18 years ago, and was working with a builder up here. And then when the market started to slow down, I transitioned back into just general real estate at that time.
Oh,
And then
okay.
I've been with general real estate since probably 2008.
Wow. Wonderful. Now, do you do a lot still in the new home community, or has that just been a distant part of your past?
I sell a few new homes once in a while, but I don't do anything really building wise anymore.
Okay. I understand that completely. And what do you have a location or a demographic area that you typically work in?
So I'm in Harford County. So I cover Harford County, Baltimore County, Cecil County, and a little bit of the city, general where I work, the north of the city area.
Okay, gotcha. And does anybody in your family work in the real estate business with you, or are you doing it alone?
Now, my wife has a real career. She's a department chair at Towson University. She's a
Oh,
college professor.
very cool. Very cool. My kids went to Towson. Well,
Okay.
the older two. Um, so that is wonderful. That is wonderful. I always ask that question because my kids want no parts of the real estate community, of the real estate industry, because of how much I work nights and weekends. And so it has terrified them. They all want 9 to 5 jobs or
Yeah.
6 to 2, whatever they work. And but so I always have to ask that question to everybody. Do you have a business coach or a mentor that you work with?
I do. I have a company that I work with that does some coaching. It's part of my marketing program. They help me. Coaching helps me keep me focused and in line, and kind of in a direction that I want to go.
I understand that completely. And how long have you been in coaching?
Oh, I've had a coaching on and off my entire career. So I've been
Wonderful.
fortunate to have worked with some of the greatest coaches in the industry. When I was with the new home company, we had great coaching, and everybody worked there, and so I kind of followed through on that through my entire career.
That's great. That's really wonderful. I am a big proponent of coaching myself. Do you have a daily success plan? And if so, what does that daily success plan look like?
So I do. I have a schedule that I work with. It's I think it's important to have a schedule that you work with. It kind of keeps you on track of what you're doing. I mean, it's has to be fluid, obviously, from what we do for a living. But it breaks down basically my day to day from start to finish. Getting up in the morning, going to the gym, working out, returning emails, making phone calls, following up on any paperwork that I have to have done. It blocks out time for prospecting, blocks out time for lead generation, blocks out time for showings, and then, goes through my entire day.
I love that. I'm such a huge component of a daily success plan myself. So I love that you have that. Do you find that it's easy to stick with, or do you find it more challenging?
Mine's pretty open. So because of you just, you get a call at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and says, I want to see a home today at 3, and you have to kind of drop everything. So I've got mine is more fluid of this is the items I need to accomplish during the day than, time blocking that I'm going to do things during a specific time.
Yes.
So it's easier to stick to it. And I don't beat myself up if I don't stick to it, which is
Very
a
important.
big benefit for me. Yeah, you can't kill yourself because you didn't get something done during the day.
Right. Absolutely. I understand that completely. Now, Maryland Realtors has said that July to July, over the those 12 months, we are down 22%. And I'm wondering, what have you done with your business to pivot during the last 12 months and as this market is challenging?
I think it's really, you got to go back to the basics. Back for the last 3 years when it was easy, everybody jumped in the industry, and it was easy to sell homes and everybody was making money. And those that, didn't have the basic skills are the people that are suffering. So it's going back to the basics and grinding and making phone calls and calling your leads and following up with your leads and following up with your sphere and, being out there every day, talking to people and, literally just grinding. Those that are grinding are working, and those that aren't grinding are complaining about not working. So
very true. Very true. That's what the whole part of this podcast is. I hope it shines a light on other realtors to see if they could just take a little snippet of something that everybody does and find what works in their day and let them implement it so it could help them change. It could help them grow their business.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of technology out there that everybody wants to use, be fancy and be cool, and TikTok and Instagram and DMs and all that stuff. And that's all nice, but I think this is a basic industry, and you've got to connect with people, and you got to follow up with people, and you got to do the basics. It's cool to see everybody's TikTok videos, but I've never made $1 off of TikTok.
Yes, I just read a book on how to monetize TikTok, and that was pretty mind-blowing to understand the difference of monetizing and not monetizing and just having fun on there.
Yeah.
So that and you're absolutely right. You've got to be able to do that and understand what it takes to do that, and learn from those that are doing it on how to do it. So I couldn't agree with you more. I'm wondering if you look at your numbers from the last 12 months, how much of your business is based off of referral as opposed to lead gen?
Probably a 40% referral business right now.
Okay.
I mean, referrals are down. Just because people aren't moving that would normally be a referral. So it's my clients that are in their houses, that have been in their houses 4 or 5 years, that would normally be moving at this point, aren't moving unless they absolutely have to. So I think that's a big change in the market, is that people aren't moving just because they want to move. People are only moving because they have to.
Yes. Big difference in that market. That question just leads me to another question. What market do you think is being hurt the most at this time? Do you feel it's the first time home buyers? Do you feel it's the move up buyers? Do you think it's the move down buyers, the luxury buyers? Where do you see the difference, the biggest difference?
I think I don't want to say first time home buyers. The first time home buyers, under the 350 price point is the hardest right now. So I mean, that's really kind of a first time home buyer that there's no inventory in that market. Right. And there's an unrealistic expectation of interest rates. For those of us who've been doing this for 20 years, we remember 8, 9, 10% interest rates.
Yeah.
And so 7% people are crying. It's really not 7%. It's not terrible. A good market rate should be 4 to 5%. But when in a year and a half ago you could have gotten 3 or 2.5%, people are a little bit shell shocked. So the first time in the lower end market and the entry level market is really hurting from a lack of inventory, which is driving prices up, and then from a lack of buying power, because of interest rates. The middle market, the 400 to 600 market, those people aren't. If you were 600,000 2 years ago, now you're 525. So you're still in the market. You still have the ability to purchase. You're just not in the same price range you were.
Right.
The luxury market, people are buying $1 million homes. They're not affected. They're buying $1 million homes.
Yes.
So that's really not an issue. What we see is typically someone who was, your buying power is diminished by about $50,000. So that's kind of, your expectations have to adjust to that. So
yes.
So the middle market's really not affected as much from a buying standpoint.
From a buying standpoint, but as a selling standpoint, do you feel is that it's those that middle market, if you will, that 5 to 700,000, that if you're talking about the sellers, they're the ones that are, I don't want to say hurting at this time, but they're the ones that don't need to sell, but they may want to sell. So they may have more of a challenge. What is your thought process there?
I think that if home is priced right, marketed right, and shows well, it'll sell. So that's just what it is. I listed a house in the last month. I had 2 homes sell, one for 700,000 and one for 550,000. We sold them all within 2 days. So wow. It's pricing them correctly, setting expectations correctly, and marketing them correctly. And everybody wants top dollar for their house, but they have to be realistic. If your house is a $550,000 house, you can't list it at 600. You've got to list it at 550.
Right.
So I don't see homes that have had price reductions were overpriced in the first place.
Right. You know what? See, my thought always goes there. I always have that question when I see a price drop, and it makes me stop and wonder why. And of course, I'm not privy to the back end, so I don't know if the seller's coming in hot saying, I want this much for my house, and the agents are saying, well, we'll start out there, but if it doesn't have any traction in 2 weeks, we're going to drop it to here. Or you just don't know what that conversation is. But I always wonder that when I see that. It doesn't happen a huge amount of time nowadays, but when I see it, it makes me stop, and I want to go and knock on the door and ask.
Yeah, and really, typically, it's the seller having an expectation of what they think the house is worth,
yes,
compared to what the market thinks the house is worth. I tell all my sellers it's real simple. Buyers, it may be a seller's market, but buyers are going to dictate the value of the home. So if you've got a nice home and you want to list it at $700,000, but the buyers are only going to determine the value at $500,000. It's only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Very true.
So if you overprice it, you're not going to get any showings. Even there could be no inventory on the market, and if you were overpriced, you still wouldn't sell it.
Right.
So typically those come from an unrealistic expectation. Or a lot of people, I had a client that you said, let's just throw it out there and see what happens. Let's list it at X dollars to see what happens. And if we get it, great. If we don't, then we'll reduce it. It's not a strategy I prefer, because I think when you start doing reductions on homes, it has a negative connotation.
Absolutely.
People start thinking there's a defect.
Right. Right. That it totally makes sense. I can see where somebody's concern would go right there. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it's been on the market 30 days, there's a problem with it. What's wrong with it? Why doesn't anybody else want it? Right.
Now, in that circumstance, do you write something in the remarks like it was in contract but fell out of contract? Like, do you proactively answer those questions that are going through buyers' minds? What's the strategy behind that?
Yeah, I mean, if you had a house that was under contract and then the contract fell apart and it was for a mortgage issue or an inspection issue, I think you can address those in the remarks and say, client's mortgage fell apart, couldn't continue with the contract. I mean, you have to be careful what you say. Sure. If there was an inspection issue, I had one where there was an inspection issue. These buyers and sellers couldn't agree on inspections or couldn't agree on repairs. So we terminated and we put in there, unable to come to agreement on repairs. Seller fixed repairs he thought were necessary. So
Right.
you can address some of that stuff. If it's
Okay.
just a price reduction, there's nothing to address.
Right.
What do you put? Seller was unrealistic about the price they wanted to list their home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And what kind of trends, and since we're talking about all that right now, what kind of trends are you seeing in the marketplace today?
I think we're still seeing prices increase. So, and I don't think we're going to see a reduction in prices. I think we're going to continue to see prices increase fairly dramatically and at a fairly steady pace. And if interest rates do drop, we're going to see more people jump in the market, which is going to create more demand, which is going to create more pricing pressure.
Yes. Yes. Which I just can't imagine the values increasing the way they have been the last 3 years. I'm excited myself as a homeowner. Um, but it worries me for my children that are now adults buying, that are trying to buy stuff, and like how crazy the market is right now.
Yeah. And, you know, you got to kind of look at it from the flip side and say, if the market continues to go up, then, in 10 years, how much equity will they have to be able to buy their next home?
Very true.
So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You got to jump in and bite the bullet. And, you really find it's interesting when you move from market to market, when you take like the people moving out of California are selling homes for
Mm,
astronomical amounts and moving to Texas, Idaho,
Tennessee, yeah,
Colorado, and they're driving the market there because they're walking in with cash and paying cash ridiculous amounts of money. So,
yes,
if you take your house here in Maryland and you sell it and you move to Texas or Florida or, the mid South, you can have a ton of equity. So it's all
yeah.
kind of relative.
That is. I'm still always very shocked by how many people are purchasing in cash nowadays. I
I am
believe
too. It's surprising me. I don't know where they're getting the cash from, but good for them.
very, very good for them. I'm always shocked. Um, so thank you for sharing that. So what goals do you have for your business as you go forward, as you finish out Q3 and start into Q4 of 2023? Because we're recording, on the end of September. So I'm wondering what goals that you have for yourself during this time.
So, I mean, you're strong. I gave all my buyers agents and listing agents goals for them to complete for the end of the year. I mean, we're going to be down a little bit this year compared to last year. Not going to be down quite 20%, which we're okay with. We got to finish the year strong, and then really we're already looking at 2024 at this point.
Right.
I think as an agent, I've got to look 60 days out. So I'm already looking at November, December at this point. So, that we're into the first quarter of next year. So we're everything we're doing now is January business.
Mm,
So
that's
we're trying
good.
to just finish what we've got this year, get a couple deals at the end of the year, and then go into January strong. If we can get through December, January, February strong, we'll have a great 2024.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I was just talking, I'm putting together an actual video CMA challenge. So it is going October 1st to October 30th. So if you and your team want to join with us, you're welcome to. And we're going to do one unsolicited video CMA a day. So it has to be unsolicited. It's got to be on video. We're sending it to our past clients, our family, our friends, just so that they know what their home would sell for today. Um, they're unsolicited so that they follow back up. And my thought process is the person that does the most amount of them is going to win an hour with a digital marketer. And the person that converts the most into actual listings in that 30-day time frame will win an hour with a social media content person. So I really want to, again, because the whole goal is to grow your pipeline, right? Like you were just saying, as you enter,
Right.
exit 2023 and into 2024, I'd like to see everybody. And of course, we know that listings are down. So what could we do to build up our listing pipeline?
So this is
Right.
something I came up with. I'll send you the video and to see if you and your people are interested in joining. There's no fee for this. It's just for fun. I want to see if we can bring more listings into the marketplace.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept. I love that idea.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to share that with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So are there any specific skills that you and your team are working on as you not just the goals, but the actual skill sets that you may be working on as the market pivots?
I really we're working on follow up, making phone calls. Um, the thing people don't like making phone calls is the fear of rejection. Nobody wants to make a phone call because they don't want to get told no. And the hardest part of making phone calls is getting started.
Yeah.
So my skill that I'm working on with my agents is just sitting down and grinding through the first 5 phone calls. And once you get through the first 5 phone calls, the next 20 fall in line easily.
Yes.
So it's really what we're working on right now is eliminating procrastination on the team and making sure that everybody's just sitting there and doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's easy to get sidetracked and do something else.
Yes.
We want to make sure that we are making our phone calls and that kind of stuff. So that's really it. I mean, we're doing some stuff with AI and our marketing company's doing stuff with AI, and I kind of leave that to them because it's hard to say what is and what isn't trendy, and I don't want to get caught up in a trend right now. So
sure. I understand that. So with you and your team, because they're making the outbound calls, are y'all working on scripting and how to handle objections and how to have those conversations?
Yeah, we do that. I mean, I've got some scripts that I work with, and I try not to be, my scripts are more of outlines rather than written down scripts. And if someone says this, you say this, and if someone says this, you say that. I want my people to be more able to just kind of freewheel it and have a good conversation with somebody instead of trying to, look, I don't want to sound like a telemarketer. Like when you get that call, oh,
Sure.
I'm here to sell you something. We want to just have a conversation with them, talk to them, and then kind of work our way through it. So my scripts are more outlines and conversational than they are, find the next sentence to fill in the blank.
Sure, I understand that. I had somebody on the podcast, and they had told me that their research shows, and I don't have the statistic in front of me, or the research in front of me, pardon me, but they told me that their statistics show that the average lead, whether it's a Zillow lead, a Redfin lead, or a Google lead, any kind of pay, or even Facebook pay-per-click lead, the average incubation time for a lead is about 13 months. And that's because so many people nowadays with Gen Zs and the younger millennials are not recognizing that when they seem to wake up and want to buy a house and they've put no preparation into it. So when they're making the first phone call to us, they don't know what has to go into purchasing. So we're just getting them on the front end. And then that 13-month incubation period occurs that we have to follow up with them, communicate with them, and let them know what they need to do in order to be able to purchase. So I think that was a very profound information that I was provided with. 13 months is on average. And so it makes you feel better when you're having those conversations.
Well, it takes 8 contacts on average before eight touches before you can actually make contact with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're looking at 12 contacts before you can actually get somebody to probably commit to a purchase.
Right.
So, you're looking at making, and the millennials have changed. They don't want to talk on the phone. So, it's 8 or 10 texts and emails to get them to communicate back with you. So I think that's really what more challenging with the younger demographics is communicating in the style that they're more accustomed to.
Yes.
So that's something we have to really, I think, as an industry focus on is how can we communicate with people in a way that they want to communicate back. Because, 10 years ago, you just picked up the phone and called people and people answered the phone. Now nobody answers the phone. You got to text them 20 times to get them to call you back.
Right. It's I find that very that's what I kind of like to take continuing ed about, is figuring out in the newest way how to communicate effectively with people in the way that they appreciate communicating.
Right.
So I'm right there with you. I get that all the time. I completely understand what you're doing. So if people are interested in speaking to you about your team and understanding how your team runs, where can they reach you at? How could they reach out to you?
I mean, they can reach me on my cell phone. It's 443-640-5126. Or they can always reach out through the website. It's kirksoldit.com.
Perfect. Thank you so very much for coming on here with us today and taking the time to feed back into the Maryland Real Estate Influencers podcast community and share with them what's working for you and for your team as well. And I hope that somebody reaches out to you and finds out, what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that that you have so much to offer to them. I'm so
Great.
grateful.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are in the community, please do me two favors. One is to send this to two of your real estate friends that would find this valuable. And number two is please take a moment and provide a review on whatever podcast platform you're watching us on, so that we can get this information to as many Maryland realtors as we can. Thank you so much, Kirk, for today. I do appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
You too. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining the Maryland Real Estate Influencers podcast. We'd like to ask you two favors. Number one, forward this podcast to three of your favorite realtor friends. They'll thank you for it, and I'll thank you for it too. Number two, we'd love reviews. It helps get the word out.